Good morning. It's Tuesday, Halloween, I think. It's gotta be, because tomorrow's my psych test, which I've been studying for. And this is another response for Kaiba Go. Fundamental attribution error is one of the things that we talk about in the psychology class. But I skipped over. I just saw that and I was like, okay, that's something that we covered in psychology. I'm going to go over the next link that Kaiva posted, closing sales. So I read the Wikipedia article, and when people hear the word closing in a sales I'm sorry, this is my first cup of coffee. When you think of closing in a sales perspective, you might think of movies like Glengarry Glen Ross. If you haven't watched that movie, I would recommend it. Even though Kevin Spacey is in a bunch of trouble right now, that was a role. And Ed, I can't remember his last name. A bunch of good actors in it. Alec Baldwin, Kevin Spacey. And it's a great movie about closing. But that's when you think about closing in sales, people think high pressure, sales closing techniques. In the training that I received and my brother received and most of the other staff at Melrose received, we worked out of a book called The Hard Sell Pack, which I've showed in a few other videos and shared some references that for one reason and another always seem to stick inside my head. I've made it a point to go through a lot of this stuff and debunk it for myself. But there are some things that, all of it's stolen, of course. You've got your common techniques listed here on Wikipedia. And it says alternative choice close, apology close, assumptive close, balance sheet close, also called the Ben Franklin close, which the salesperson and the prospect build together a pro and con list of whether to buy the product, with the salesperson trying to ensure the pros list is longer than the cons. Cradle to grave close, undercuts prospect objections that is too soon to buy by telling them there's never a convenient time in life to make a major purchase, therefore they must do it anyway. I'm not gonna read all of these because all of these I'm pretty sure were covered in the Hard Sell Pack, and we also had copies of Les Dane's book and Dale Carnegie's book, the How to Win Friends and Influence People and Big League Sales Techniques. And those two books revolutionized the car sales industry. So, and they were highly, highly praised in the church. So think about selling religious freedom as you would sell a car, I guess. But not really. When you sell something of worth, like not just a book or the books, the Dianetics books, the Fundamentals of Thought books that you sell on the street, Way to Happiness, this is all leading to a big sale, auditing, and whether it's book one auditing or Scientology auditing. So, the way that the cycle the sales cycle goes is on a gradient. And if you don't know what a gradient is, there's you could probably YouTube that, like Scientology gradients, but it's simple to explain. It's like if there's a pool that you dip your foot in and it's a little too cold, well then you just let your foot sit in it for a little bit, let it adjust, and then put your leg a little deeper in, and then a little deeper until your body adjusts to it. And that's getting into the pool at a gradient so that you don't shock yourself. Your body doesn't start shivering and stuff. Same thing applies. It's called gradients, and it's applied to damn near everything in Scientology. You apply a gradient, and if someone blows or leaves, then you can get easily accused of going, what they call going out gradient with them. A lot of sales or reg cycles, which is a sales cycle, a lot of reg cycles have gotten accused of going out gradient too fast, because some people just aren't ready to face the idea that the money they're spending is saving the fucking planet. Because it's just, like, are you telling me that $2,000 is going to help save the fucking planet? And, so, is apology clothes, puppy dog clothes, these are all just manipulative things. I mean, that's what sales, like when you get into high pressure sales, it's just how much can you convince the person that they need what it is you're selling. And a good salesperson will actually find out, even if the person doesn't think they need whatever it is. A good salesperson will sell themselves, or they will find a way to sell the product to that person and get them to know that they need it. So, possibility of loss close, also known as the pressure close, in which the salesperson points out failing to close could result in missed opportunity. Well, in this case, a lot of closing techniques that were popular, like with some of the big regs, like Jim, it was a threat of losing your spiritual freedom. And for those that he had helped indoctrinate, he usually got what he wanted. Business owners would hand over $20,000, $30,000 without batting an eye. And I also know that he would use their PC folders and talk to the executive directors. During the reg cycle, he'd be like, hold on, I'll be right back. And then he'd go talk to the ED, and the auditor can find out what kind of bad things this person has done. And he'd go back, and he wouldn't outright say, well, you've done this and this and this. He would allude to some of the manifestations of behavior that lead to, whatever unethical behavior this person had. And then you get what they call in Scientology the overt, the missed withhold phenomenon. So as he's going through analyzing this person's behavior and knowing what the person did, because there's no priest-penitent information, really. They will give it to any Div 6 guy who's willing to sell somebody something. Well, not any. Someone who's skilled, someone who's been in a lot of training, a lot of TRs, a lot of... I'm trying to do an impression. The 20, the 100-yard stare. I got that. I completely duplicate what it is you're saying. It really, closing, Kaiba, I wish I could go into more detail, but there's just so many different instances that that occur. Like you have people who are kind of half in, half out. You got people who are hardcore in, and those are the ones that the sales techniques really work on, because they're in the cult. They believe enough to stay, and if their family's involved, they're scared enough not to leave. And so, generally, the rule of thumb is the hard sell pack. The references that are listed in there are numerous, and of course, the first policy letter is KSW, keeping Scientology working. We're not a bunch of namby-pamby, panty-waist dilettantes wasting time here. There's a planet to save, and blah, 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 blah. Handling considerations is the biggest part of sales. And this is something that I took with me outside of the church. I was already a good salesman. My father has been a salesman his whole life. He's also a plant worker, but he's a hell of a salesperson. And he taught me a lot about that, and what he taught me was just be real, I mean, if a person is interested in buying something, just, they're going to buy it. Talk to them. Be their friend, and be honest, be as informative as you can. Give them as much information as you can. And if there's something that they want, be as helpful as you can, even if it means they're buying a product that doesn't come from you. So a lot of what I was trained to do in Scientology goes against what my father taught me. But after I left, I kind of have two schools of thought to work with, and so the sales transferred over. I mean, and I could sell myself, to people. I didn't graduate college. I'm in college now, but I've held highly technical positions pretty much just because I've been able to sell myself to people. So I guess this is a short subject, and feel free to ask questions in the comments, but the real like essence of sales in Scientology is high pressure sales. And Dale Carnegie and Les Dane, those two books are Bibles in Scientology. They are literally like a Bible, and if you can get a hold of one, you can even get a Kakan status, which means untouchable ethics-wise, for at least a week, because everyone in the mission that hasn't read it will have to read it. There was two people who had a copy of Big League Sales Techniques. John Jones was one of them, and I studied his. How to Win Friends and Influence People. There's usually always a copy somewhere in some church or mission. And those two books, like I said, they revolutionized the car industry back in the 50s. And now in America, you see these car dealerships all over the place. They had to figure out how to sell these cars, and Les Dane and Dale Carnegie did seminars on sales, and their drilling was very similar to the TR drilling that you do in Scientology, TRs and objectives, where you handle considerations, you acknowledge the person in front of you, you are bull baited, because you will have customers that will fight you verbally, so you have to be prepared to not react to that. And those are eventually you'll break through that wall with the person you're trying to sell to, and if you're good enough, you'll be able to get them to hand it all over. when we did our cell phone, or not our cell phone raising, when the phone raising campaign, when we first got there, not long after the training, we had high targets. I think we raised 36 million, anywhere from 30 to 50 million, just in 6 months off of phone calls to OTs that were living in California and Arizona, some of them in New York. Some of these people seemed very rich, very rich, because they had people answering the phones for them and stuff, and hard to get a hold of, make an appointment to talk to, and all this stuff. And the central files that we got these numbers from were not ours, which is against policy per LRH. But money trumps all. So, however those records were obtained, Tom and Kathy Stein have been connected with the church for a long time. I'm sure they have people in the Sea Org that would provide information for them at the drop of a hat. So that's sales. I mean, it's essentially what they wrap it up in is care for the person in front of you. Now, that's actually a pretty legitimate thing. And if your belief at the time is Scientology, then caring for the person in front of you means that you're actually concerned about that Thetan, that person in front of you that's going to be agonizing for millennia, not knowing who they are. So when you make that connection with the person and they believe that, you really got them by their ethical balls. And how hard you squeeze is how much you're going to get out. That may be a gross reference, but that's probably the best I can do at 10 in the morning with 1 cup of coffee. The next one is going to be confirmation bias, and I'm going to review that real quick and upload a video. So Kaiva, I'm sorry if this one wasn't super detailed and I didn't go over every single closing technique, but all these closing techniques are things that I've talked about one way or another, like the alternative. I mean, I could give an example for each one. I got 2 minutes to do it. All right. Alternative choice close, also called positive choice close, in which the salesperson represents the prospect with 2 choices, both of which end the sale. Would you like paper or plastic? Well, in Scientology, it'd be more like, would you like your library delivered at home or here at the mission? Apology close, apologizes for not yet closing. I owe you an apology. Somewhere along the line, I must have left out some important information and left you in doubt. We both know this product suits your needs perfectly. Now, that one is a common one, because when someone basically says, no, I'm not buying your fucking intensive, then the reg takes a deep breath and gets his TRs in and says, okay, well, I'm sorry. I have failed to make it clear to you exactly why you need this service. So don't even worry about getting the service, because I'm not trying to sell you the service anymore. I just want to explain why it is you need the service, because at some point you're going to need it. And that starts the cycle over again. That gives them a second chance to sell. Assumptive close, also known as a presumptive close, which the salesperson intentionally assumes that the prospect has already agreed to buy and just wraps up the sale. Our bookstore officer in Ventura, that was his preferred method of selling. Hey, you need your LRH library? Give me your card. Give me that credit card. I'll just put it on your card, man. Don't worry about it. Oh, that card's full? Well, what about the other one, the Discover that you got? You know, it's assuming, you know. Balance sheet close, we went over that. Cradle to grave close. Never a convenient time to make a major purchase. That would be a cycle like we did where we closed a guy for somewhere around $75,000, and he had sold cashed out all of his gold stocks and silver certificates and all that stuff. We convinced him that there was never a good time to do it. Poor guy could be a millionaire now because of the silver certificates and the silver that he had. Direct close. Salespersons are discouraged from using this technique unless they're very sure the prospect is ready to commit. Now, you can do a direct close on someone like Tom Cruise or someone who's been at a mission for 20 years, and you can do it with OTs. You can say, give me your money. We're building a mission in Melrose, and we need your help. And I know you have money, so give it to me. No excuses, no stops. I need $5,000 by tomorrow. Make it go right. Indirect close, question close. How do you feel about these terms? Does agreement look okay? That's never done. I never saw that done. You don't ask them that. Minor point close. Would the door look better painted red? Okay, no, then we'll leave it as isn't. That's another one, a negative assumption close. So not all of these are used. Not all of them. Possibility of loss close, pressure close, high pressure close. Of course this one's used, in which the salesperson points out that failing to close could result in missed opportunity. Puppy dog close, that one is used, and then puppy dog close is where someone gives the product to a person on a trial basis to test before a sale is agreed upon. I would redefine this for Scientology as like, hey, I'm on staff and you know how bad staff conditions are and you know that I'm in lowers. Would you buy a $25 book from me so that I don't have to be in lowers again next week? In my case, that happened quite a bit because people liked me a lot over there at Melrose, and so people would literally just give. They offered to give me money, but I wouldn't take it. I would give it to the church. Sales contest close, in which person offers special incentive to close. Now those happen whenever they have the big events at the shrine or wherever. You know, if you buy your entire library, you'll be, listed on the Wall of Fame, or you'll get a trophy or whatever. Sharp angle close, in which person requests to close. Can you get the system up and running in 2 weeks? If I guarantee it, do we have a deal? Sharp angle close, that happened to me with Jim whenever I got reg for my entire drug rundown. And I said, if I said, there's no way you guys are going to be able to audit me. I know you're just going to send me back into ethics. Well, they got the mission holders involved. They got everybody in the fucking mission involved in love bombing me into saying, well, we promise, Marcus, we promise we'll get you your help that you need. Just give us the money. And they got it. So, that's sales. Next up, confirmation bias. Thanks for watching.